So நாளைக்கு வந்து we are having our English board examinations. So actually we were going up with a revision, but we couldn't continue it. We had a break, and we will have a full-fledged revision now. But before that, whomever have joined now, let's just have a quick meditation session so that we can get started. So yeah. Okay.
Okay, buddy, morning.
Okay, guys. Let's start. Let's get started with Rat Trap, written by Selma Lagerlöf. So let's see about the author. Selma Lagerlöf was a Swedish author and teacher. She was the first woman writer to win the Nobel Prize in Literature. Her stories have been translated into many languages. A universal theme runs through all of them: a belief that the essential goodness in a human being can be awakened through understanding and love. ஸோ அவங்களோட எல்லா ஸ்டோரிஸ்லையும் வந்துட்டு இந்த பர்டிகுலர் மோட்டோ, அதாவது என்னென்ன நல்ல விஷயங்கள்லாம் ஏற்படணும் அப்படின்றது எல்லாம் இருக்கோ அது வந்து புரிதல் மூலியமாகவும் காதல் அன்பு இதன் மூலியமாகவும் வந்துட்டு கிடைக்கும் அப்படின்ற ஒரு நம்பிக்கை. அண்ட் அந்த பேசிஸில் தான் வந்துட்டு அவங்களோட எல்லா ஸ்டோரிஸும் இருக்கும். அண்ட் ஐ திங்க் if you get this particular chapter to be reviewed, writing this line would be better. It makes the answer look better. Okay, so moving on to the summary. The rat trap peddler and his thoughts about the world. Once upon a time, there was a vagabond who went around selling small rat traps. He made them from the material he got by begging. The business was not profitable, so he had to beg and even steal to survive. His clothes were in rags, his cheeks were sunken, and hunger gleamed in his eyes. While he was engrossed in his thoughts about rat traps one day, a very amusing thought came to his mind that the world was a big rat trap. It offered comforts and joys just like the rat trap offered cheese and pork. As soon as a rat was tempted to touch the bite, it trapped him. The crofter treats the peddler nicely, but the peddler cheats him. One dark evening, as the peddler was strolling along the road, he went to a small grey cottage seeking shelter for the night. The owner, who had once been a crofter, not only invited him in, but was happy to get someone to talk to. The crofter, who had no wife or children, was very talkative and shared much about him. He informed the peddler that during his days of prosperity, he worked at the Joe the ironworks. Now his cow supported him. He even shared the fact that he had earned 30 kroner by selling the cow's milk. The guest seemed incredulous, so this crofter showed him the money, also revealing where it was kept. Next day, both left the cottage at the same time, but half an hour later, the peddler returned. He went up to the window, smashed a pane, and took out the 30 kroner from the pouch in which they were kept. The vagabond is pleased with his smartness, gets lost in the wood. The vagabond was quite pleased with his smartness. He avoided the public highway and turned into the wood, as he felt he would be safer and no one would be able to catch him. It was a big and confusing forest. He tried to walk in a definite direction, but the paths twisted back and forth so strangely that he was confused. He walked on and soon realized that he had been walking around in the same part of the forest. All at once, he recalled his thoughts about the world being a rat trap. Now his own turn had come. He had let himself be fooled by the bite and had been caught in a rat trap. The entire forest, with its trees, trunks, and branches, seemed him like a prison that offered no escape. The peddler meets the ironmaster, declines his invitation. Finally, the peddler saw no way out. He was so overwhelmed with exhaustion that he sank down to ground, tired to death, thinking that his last moment had come. Just then he heard the sound of a regular thumping of a hammer. He realized that the sound was coming from an iron mill. He summoned all his strength and walked in the direction of the sound. He reached the Ramsjo Ironworks, which was then a large plant with smelter, rolling mill, and forge. He entered the ironworks amidst the different sounds coming from the work going on in full swing. It was quite usual for persons like him to be attracted by the of the forge, so he was ignored by the blacksmiths. The master blacksmith rather haughtily granted him permission to stay. Soon the ironmaster came into the forge for his inspection and noticed the peddler. He mistook him in the dim light for an old regimental comrade and addressed him as Nils Olaf. The peddler didn't try to clear his doubt as he thought the ironmaster might give him some money. The ironmaster invited him home. The peddler thought that going to the manor's house would be like throwing himself voluntarily into the lion's den, so he declined the invitation. Ironmaster sends his daughter Edla to persuade the peddler. The ironmaster assumed that peddler felt embarrassed because of his miserable clothing. He tried to comfort the peddler by informing him that there was nothing to be ashamed about. He further told him that his wife Elizabeth was dead, his sons were settled abroad, he lived with his daughter Edla. But the tramp constantly refused to go with him. The ironmaster went away, but he was not deterred by the peddler's persistent refusal. He sent his daughter to persuade the peddler. When Edla came to the ironworks, she found the man alarmed and frightened. She tried to comfort him. She somehow sensed that his fear conveyed that he was either a thief on the run or an escaped prisoner. Still, she was very friendly and kind to the peddler. The peddler felt confidence in her and accepted the invitation. He felt guilty and cursed himself for stealing the crofter's. Edla expresses her doubts about the peddler. The next day was the Christmas Eve. The master was happy that he would be spending his time with an old friend. He told Edla that they needed to feed him well and provide him with a better business than selling rat traps. Edla said that she was doubtful about the peddler as he didn't display the slightest sign of being educated. However, the ironmaster told her to have some patience. Just then the door opened and the stranger entered the well groomed. He was wearing clothes which belonged to the ironmaster. So the ironmaster gets angry, the peddler retaliates. The ironmaster realized that the tramp was no friend of his. The peddler made no attempt to delude them any longer. He explained that he never said to the ironmaster that he was Nils Olaf. He had even pleaded and begged for not coming to the manor house. He added that no harm had been done and he could put on his rags and go away. The ironmaster said that the peddler had not been very honest and he would take him to the sheriff. The peddler got agitated. He said that the world was like a big rat trap and someday the ironmaster would also be tempted to touch the bite and would be doomed. The ironmaster started laughing. Edla argues on behalf of the peddler. The ironmaster asked the peddler to leave, but Edla wanted him to stay there. She felt that they had promised the peddler Christmas cheer and it would be wrong to send him away. The peddler was surprised by this gesture. Edla further added that the peddler must have been through a bad time as he was always chased away. He could not even sleep unafraid. The ironmaster gave in. The peddler was allowed to stay on for the Christmas, but the only thing he did was to sleep soundly after that. Once or twice he was woken up to have food, but besides that, he only slept. It seemed as though he had never slept as quietly and safely. The ironmaster and Edla gifted him the suit that he was wearing as a Christmas present. She told him that he was welcome to spend even the next Christmas with them. The peddler kept staring at her in boundless amazement. The peddler became a changed man. The next morning, the ironmaster and his daughter went to the church for the Christmas service, leaving the peddler at home. They returned home and Edla was very sad. At the church, they had learned that a rat-trap peddler robbed an old crofter who once worked at their Ramsjow ironworks. The ironmaster was furious. They thought that by the time they would reach home, the peddler would have escaped with all their silver and other valuables. When they got home, the ironmaster asked the valet if the peddler was still there. The valet informed them that the fellow had left, but he had not taken anything with him. Instead, he had left something for Edla. Edla opened the package and found a rat trap. In the rat trap were 30 wrinkled 10 kroner notes and a letter. The peddler had written that since Edla had treated him like a real captain, he also wanted to be nice to her. He wanted the money to be returned to the crofter. He further wrote that he would not have been able to escape the rat trap if he had not been raised to the status of a captain. He even signed the letter as Captain Von Stale. He was a changed man. So basically we have certain word meanings. NCERT folder. So from where did the peddler get the idea of the world being a rat trap? Salma. லைக் இந்த உலகமே வந்துட்டு ஒரு ரேட் ட்ராப்ன்ற ஐடியா அவருக்கு எப்படி வந்தது அப்படின்ற மாதிரி ஒரு கொஷின் கேட்குறாங்க. ஸோ இந்த மாதிரி ஐடியா ஃபாரஸ்ட்குள்ளே போகும்போது ஸோ பேசிக்கலி அவனை பொறுத்த வரைக்கும் லைக் ஜென்ரலாகவே ஹி வாஸ் அலோன். ஸோ ஹி ஹேட் அ லாட் ஆஃப் தாட்ஸ் அண்ட் ஒன் ஆஃப் த தாட் இஸ் தட் இந்த உலகமே வந்துட்டு இட் இஸ் அ ரேட் ட்ராப் அண்ட் அதில் இருக்கிற ஒரு பைட்டை தொட்டுட்டோம் அப்படின்னா கண்டிப்பாக அதில் நம்ம மாட்டிக்குவோன்ற மாதிரி ஒரு தாட் வந்து அவனுக்கு ஆல்ரெடி இருந்தது. And I think that was it. And realize பண்ணான்றது வேணால் சொல்லலாம். So basically the peddler was a vagabond who went around selling a rat. One day as he was just thinking about his own rat traps, he was struck by the idea that it was a big rat trap. Riches, food, choice and shelter served as baits to tempt people, just like a rat trap offered cheese or meat to a tempt rat. One was tempted to touch the bait. The rat trap closed and everything came to an end. ஸோ பேசிக் பாயிண்ட்ஸ் என்னென்னா இந்த உலகமே வந்துட்டு ஒரு ரேட் ட்ராப் அண்ட் அதில் வச்சுருக்க பொய் தான் வந்துட்டு நம்மளுடைய இன்பம் துன்பங்கள் அனைத்தும் அப்படின்ற மாதிரி சொல்ல வர்றாரு. இன்பங்கள் மட்டும் அண்ட் அதனால் கண்டிப்பாக துன்பம் வரும்ன்றதை ஃபைனலாக சொல்கிறாரு. ஸோ வை வாஸ் ஹீ அம்யூஸ்ட் பை திஸ் ஐடியா? ஓகே, he was amused by the idea of the world being a rat trap. He was also happy that those who chased him away would also be tempted and caught up in a rat trap one day. Okay. Again, did the peddler expect the kind of hospitality that he received from the crofter? So basically அந்த கிராஃப்டர்கிட்ட வந்து எதிர்பார்த்த மாதிரியான ஹாஸ்பிட்டாலிட்டி அவர் கிடச்சிதா அப்படி கேட்கும்போது இல்லை. லைக் பேசிக்கலி அவரை பொறுத்த வரைக்கும் ஒரு பர்டிகுலர் இடத்துல அவர் தங்கலாம் அப்படின்ற மாதிரி ஒரு முடிவு செய்கிறாரு. ஆனால் அங்கே இருக்கிற ஒரு கிராஃப்டர் வந்துட்டு ஹி இஸ் கிவிங் ஹிம் சம் அமௌண்ட் ஆஃப் லைக் ஷெல்டர் அண்ட் ஃபுட்டு. பெட்லர் வந்துட்டு அதை பார்த்தோன்னே ஹீ இஸ் பிகமிங் சர்ப்ரைஸ்ட் ஃபர்ஸ்ட் அண்ட் தென் ஹீ இஸ் ஆல்சோ ஹேவிங் ஃபியர். ஸோ அதெல்லாம் மென்ஷன் பண்ணணும்னு நினைக்கிறேன். ஸோ இங்கே என்ன போட்டிருக்காங்கன்னா wherever the peddler went, people were hostile to him and chased him away. So the peddler was surprised when he knocked on the door of the cottage and the crofter welcomed him, also gave him food and shelter. Okay, so why was the crofter so talkative and friendly? ஏன்னா பேசிக்கலி கிராஃப்டர் வந்துட்டு ரொம்ப ஒரு வயசான மனுஷன். அவர் கூட யாருமே இல்லை கரண்ட்லி. அவங்க ஒய்ஃப் வந்து செத்து போயிட்டாங்க அண்ட் அவங்களோட சன் அவங்க சில்ட்ரன் யாருமே அவங்க கூட இல்லை. ஸோ அதன் காரணமாக அவங்க கூட லைக் பேசுகிறதுக்கு ஆள் கிடச்சது அப்படின்ற ஒரு தாட் லைக் தெரிஞ்ச உடனே அவருக்கு வந்துட்டு ஹி இஸ் பிகமிங் மோர் ஹாப்பி அண்ட் அது காரணமாக அவர்கிட்ட எல்லா எக்ஸ்பீரியன்ஸஸையும் வந்துட்டு பேசுகிறாரு அண்ட் ரொம்ப ஃப்ரெண்ட்லியாகவும் இருக்கார். Why did he show the 30 kroner to the peddler? Because he felt proud that he had earned this money from selling the cow's milk to the creamery. He thought that the stranger didn't believe him, so he showed him the money. Okay, so basically he is being proud. ஆனால் அவரை பொறுத்த வரைக்கும் அந்த ஸ்ட்ரேஞ்சர் வந்துட்டு அதை நம்பலைன்ற காரணத்தை அப்படின்னு யோசித்து அவரே வந்து எடுத்து காட்டுறாரு. And why did he show the 30 kroner? Okay, did the peddler respect the confidence he reposed in him by the crofter? No, the peddler didn't respect the confidence reposed to him by the crofter. The crofter had showed him the 30 kroner which he had earned and where it was kept in a pouch near a window. The next day, when the crofter had gone out to deliver the cow's milk to the creamery, the peddler came back, broke the window pane, stole the 30 kronas from the pouch where it was kept near the window. Okay, so basically, they thought let's just something else. என்ன பண்ணலாம், சம்மரி மட்டும் படிப்போமா? நிறைய இருக்குது, சம்மரி மட்டும் பார்த்துட்டே போயிடலாம். நல்லா கவனமாக முகஜிடா டைம் இல்லை, அதனால் கொஷின்ஸ் வந்துட்டு டைம் இருந்தால் அப்புறம் ரீட் பண்ணுங்கள். Moving on, so let's get into the summary of Indigo, written by Louis Fisher. So basically, the chapter sketches that this chapter is an excerpt from Louis Fisher's book, The Life Mahatma Gandhi. The book has been reviewed as one of the best books ever written on Gandhi by Times Educational. The author visited Gandhi in 1942. Gandhi narrated him the incident which prompted him to fight against British. Rajkumar peasant came to Gandhi with the problem of exploitation in the district. Gandhi visited the place and freed the people from Champaran. So basically the characters basically we have Gandhi, he is the main lead, and Rajkumar Shukla, he will be like the one who will be taking a story for the initial part. Vikram Lamar Mari. Okay, moving on. About the author, Louis Fisher was a Jewish American journalist. He began his career as a school teacher but later became a journalist and a famous international reporter. In June 1942, he was permitted to stay for a week in the guest house near Mahatma Gandhi's ashram and conducted daily interviews with the great leader. ஸோ ஒரு வாரத்தில் எழுதினதை வைத்து தலைவன் வந்துட்டு மிகப்பெரிய ஆளாக மாறிவிட்டார். மூவிங் டவுன், summary of the chapter, Rajkumar Shukla, the resolute peasant. Gandhi starts narrating the incident which made him decide to spur the exit of the British from India. The incident occurred in 1970. Gandhi had gone to the December 1916 annual convention of the Indian National Congress Party in Lucknow. A poor and emaciated peasant, Rajkumar Shukla, approached Gandhi. Shukla was one of the sharecroppers of Champaran. Shukla wanted Gandhi to visit his district and look into the condition of the peasants. He came to the Congress session to complain about the injustice of the landlord system in Bihar. Gandhi had other commitments, but Shukla accompanied him everywhere for weeks. He never left Gandhi's side. Gandhi was very impressed by his tenacity and agreed to accompany him to Champaran. He told him to come to Calcutta and take him from there. When Gandhi went to Calcutta after some months, he found Shukla already present there. House and then to meet a lawyer named Rajendra Prasad, became the president of India and Congress as well. Rajendra Prasad, the servants knew Shukla as a poor peasant who pestered their master to help the indigo sharecroppers. As Gandhi accompanied him, they thought him to be another farmer, and Gandhi was not allowed to drink water from the well because they thought he was untouchable. Gandhi decided to visit Muzaffarpur before Champaran to obtain more information about the conditions. Gandhi sent a telegram to Professor J.P. Kripalani. Okay? Kripal. Okay, whatever. Okay. Who received them at the station, large body of students. Gandhi stayed in Muzaffarpur for 2 days at the home of Sir Malkani, a government school teacher. He recalled that his stay in the house of a government servant was an extraordinary thing in those days. In smaller localities, the Indians were afraid to show sympathy for advocates of home rule and began arriving in large numbers. Muzaffarpur lawyers met Gandhi. They told him that their cases and reports, the size of their for collecting a huge fee from the sharecroppers, concluded that the peasants were so crushed and fear-stricken that going to law courts was useless. The real relief for them was to the sharecropping arrangement. Most of the land fit for cultivating Champaran was divided into large estates by the Englishmen. They forced the Indian tenants to plant 15% of their holdings with indigo and surrender the entire indigo harvest as a rent. After landlords learned that the Germany had developed synthetic indigo, they asked for compensation for being released from the 15% arrangement. The sharecropping arrangement was irksome and so many peasants signed willingly. Irksome means irritating. However, some of them engaged lawyers. Meanwhile, the news of synthetic indigo reached the sharecroppers and they felt cheated, unhappy, and then they became resentful. They wanted their money back. Gandhi disobeys the official order. It was amid such chaos that Gandhi arrived in Champaran. He visited the secretary of the British Landlords Association in order to piece together all the facts. So he's basically visiting secretary of the British Landlords Association. It's really important to remember the sequence of places he's. The secretary told him that no information to an outsider. Very early information. So Gandhi answered that he was no outsider. He then visited to the British commissioner and Gandhi reported that he was bullied and asked to leave Tirhut. காந்தியவே புள்ளி பண்ணியிருக்காங்க.
திருஹட்னா அவரோட சொந்த ஊரா?
ஒரு இடம், அதாவது இந்த பர்டிகுலர் இடத்துல தான் இங்கே இருக்காங்க. Tirhut, I think it is. Okay, moving on. Gandhi proceeded to Motihari, that's the important place, which is the capital of Champaran. A vast multitude greeted him. Using a house as headquarters, he continued his investigations. A report came that a peasant had been maltreated in a nearby village, and Gandhi decided to check what happened in the matter himself. On the way, he was ordered by the police superintendent messenger to return to the town. So he was served with an official notice to quit Champaran, but Gandhi signed a receipt of the notice and further wrote that he would disobey the order, and this was the first act of disobedience against an order given by British. So as a result, he was summoned to appear in the court. Next, spontaneous demonstration of the peasants. Gandhi could not sleep the whole night. He telegraphed Rajendra Prasad to come from Patna, so with influential friends, and sent instructions to the ashram. He also wired a full report to the viceroy. Next day, several thousand peasants reached Motihari and started demonstrating around the courthouse. They had merely heard that a certain Mahatma who wanted to help them was in trouble with the authorities. Gandhi felt that this was the beginning of their liberation of fear. Okay, liberation from the fear of British. The officials felt powerless. They sought help from Gandhi to regulate the crowd. He gave them proof that the British tyranny will no longer be borne. The government was baffled. Baffled means confused. The trial was postponed. Gandhi protested against the delay. He confessed that he broke the law, but only because of the voice of his conscience. So what he's saying is that he's confessing that I did break the law, but it's because of my conscience. So the magistrate announced a 2-hour recess and asked Gandhi to get bail prepared, but Gandhi refused. So the judge didn't deliver the judgment for days, and Gandhi was allowed to remain at liberty. Rajendra Prasad, along with prominent lawyers, conferred with Gandhi. Gandhi asked them what they would do if he was sent to jail. The senior lawyer replied that they were there to help Gandhi. If he was arrested, they would go home. And Gandhi reprimanded them about the injustice to the sharecroppers. The lawyers consulted among themselves. They thought that when Gandhi, a total stranger, was ready to go to jail for the sake of peasants, it would be shameful for the peasants whom these lawyers claimed to serve. They told Gandhi that they were ready to follow him to jail. Gandhi exclaimed, "The battle of Champaran is won." Civil disobedience. Civil disobedience crimes. Gandhi was informed that Lieutenant Governor of the province ordered the case to be dropped. Civil disobedience had triumphed for the first time in modern India. So that's how the triumph was occurred. So inquiries into the grievances of the farmers over a wide area began. About 10,000 testimonials were reported. Notes were made of the evidence. The whole area throbbed with activity, and landlords protested vehemently against the inquiries. In June, Lieutenant Governor Sir Edward Gate out the detailed plans for civil disobedience if he returned from summons. Lieutenant government, after having 4 protracted meetings with Gandhi, commission to inquire the situation. Gandhi was a soldier of the peasants. The evidence against the landlords was overwhelming. He asked Gandhi how much they should repay. They thought he would demand full repayment of the money which was illegally and deceitfully extorted from the sharecroppers. Gandhi asked for only 50%. The landlords offered to refund 25%. Everybody surprised Gandhi. Gandhi explained that the amount of money was not important. What mattered was the landlords were obliged to surrender part of their money and the part of their prestige as well. So the planters behaved as the lords above the law, but after this incident, the peasants saw that they had rights and persons to defend them, and they were also the persons to abide the law. அப்படின்ற மாதிரி சொல்லுவாங்க. The poor conditions of the Champaran and Gandhi's typical methods. So from here, we will talk about more of about the cultural and social backwardness in Champaran villages. He called for volunteers to help. His wife Kasturba and his youngest son arrived to help. Youngest ஏதோ தாசன் போட்டிருந்தாரு கமல்லாம்
தேவதாஸ்
சும்மா கஸ்தூரி பாய்
அர்ஜுன் தாஸ்
தேவதாஸ் தேவதாஸ் ஞாபகம் வர மாட்டேங்குது. Primary schools were opened in 6 villages. Kasturba taught the rules on personal cleanliness and community sanitation. Castor oil, quinine, and oil sulfur ointment were given to the ailing. Gandhi noticed the filthy state of women's clothes. He asked Kasturba to talk to them about it. One woman took Kasturba into her hut. She showed her that there were no boxes or cupboards for the clothes. The sari that she was wearing was the only one she had. Gandhi kept a long distance watch on the ashram. He sent regular instructions by post and asked for financial accounts. The Champaran episode was a turning point in Gandhi's life. He explained that what an act of defiance. This was the typical Gandhi pattern. So, according to Gandhi, was intertwined with political day-to-day problems of millions of people. Moving on, self-reliance, the making of a free Indian. All the things that Gandhi did, he tried to mold a new free Indian who could stand on his own feet and thus make India free. Charles Freed Andrews, an English pacifist who had become a devoted follower, Charles Freed Andrews, came to bid him a goodbye. Gandhi's lawyer's friend wanted Andrews to help them. Gandhi strongly opposed the suggestion. According to him, asking for Andrews' help was showing the weakness of their hearts. He assured them the cause was just and they must rely upon themselves to win the battle. So they must rely upon themselves and they should not seek an outsider like British men like Andrews. Gandhi in this way taught them a lesson on self-reliance. Self-reliance, Indian independence and help to the sharecroppers were all together. Moving on towards the next chapter. ஜெய் லைவ்ல இருக்கோம். கபில் சாமி அடுத்த வருஷம் அந்த வீடியோ பார்ப்போம் சரியா.
நிறைய பார்த்துருந்தேன்.
Serious.
ஓகே.
Whites and Pancakes, written by Ashoka Mitran. It's a story based on Tamil film industry. So, yeah, it's gonna be cool. So the chapter sketch என்னன்ற பார்ப்போம். Whites and Pancakes is a humorous and interesting account on Ashoka Mitran's experiences at Gemini Studios. It has interesting descriptions of personalities in a film company in the early days of Indian cinema. He vividly brings out some of the eccentricities and weaknesses of the characters in a delightful manner. The present chapter is an excerpt from his book My Years with Boss. ஸோ பேசிக்கலி இந்த ஃப்ளமிங்கோவில் இருக்கிற மோஸ்ட் ஆஃப் த சாப்டர்ஸ் வந்து பார்த்தீங்கன்னா ஏதாவது ஒரு புக்கில் இருக்கிற ஒரு சின்ன பார்ட் கட் பண்ணி எடுத்திருக்காங்க. ஸோ அந்த புக்ஸோட நேம்ஸை ஞாபகம் வச்சுக்கிறது வெரி வெரி இம்பார்ட்டன்ட் திங். ஸோ அபவுட் த கேரக்டர்ஸ், ஸோ பேசிக்லி தேஸ் மிஸ்டர் பாஸ் who is S.S. Vasan, the founder of Gemini Studios. He had a liking for erudite and scholarly persons. Seems to be a gullible man who is surrounded by shallow people and sycophants. Subbu at Gemini Studios. He always looked cheerful and was highly charitable and of a loving nature. He was also an amazing actor, poet and novelist. He was always seen with the boss. Next, story department of the Gemini Studios. Advisor and lawyer. Okay. He unintentionally ended the career of a budding actress. Seriya. Why? He is in the makeup department. Makeup and does the makeup of the players in the crowd scenes of films. He aspired to be a top film star, screenwriter, director of lyric writer, but was a highly frustrated man because he could not do any of them. So these are the main characters upon which the books is
இதை பண்ணி படியாச்சு கையில்
ப்ளீஸ் எழுதி கொடுங்க. சரி படி
ஆன்சர் The makeup department of Gemini Studios. The makeup department of Gemini Studios was in a building which was said to be Robert Clive's erstwhile stable. In the studio, the makeup material with brand name Pancake was used profusely. All actresses of yesteryears were familiar with it. However, the author feels that modern actors may not be even aware of its existence. The author mocks Robert Clive by saying that during his short life, he is said to have he fought battles and even got married here. A vivid description of the makeup room. The makeup room looked like a haircutting salon. It was filled with large mirrors and flooded with lights at all angles. It was not a very pleasant experience to get the makeup done here because of the heat from the dazzling heat lights. The makeup department and national integration. This department of Gemini Studios is a symbol of national integration. Initially, it was headed by a Bengali. He was succeeded by a Maharashtrian who was assisted by a Dharwar Kannadiga. Then different people belong to different states occupy the position. The author jokingly tells the reader about the skills of these makeup men. With quite a lot of pancake and other potions and lotions, they could mar the beauty of any person. However, Ashoka Mitran clarifies by saying that perhaps the idea's crimson colored makeup was important to look presentable on the screen. A strict hierarchy in the makeup department. An elaborate division of work marked the makeup department. The chief makeup man dressed up the actors in lead roles. His senior assistant looked after the second hero and the heroine, while the junior assistant took charge of the main comedy. The players who played the crowd were looked after by the office boy of the department. The office boy. The office boy was not exactly a boy. He was a man in his early 40s. He joined the studio years back and aspired to be a top film star or top screenwriter, director or lyric writer. He also wrote poetry. The narrators worked in the studio. The narrator worked in a cubicle. His work was to cut newspaper clipping and store them in files. Everybody thought that his work was next to nothing, and so he was continuously lectured by other employees. The office boy often came to his cubicle and gave vent to his feeling of frustrations and irritation leading out of his failures. The narrator desperately wished to escape from his continuous triad and prayed for a crowd shooting. Kodamangalam Subbu. The narrator mentions that the office boy felt that the source of his problem was a man named Kodamangalam Subbu. He was the number two at Gemini Studios. According to the office boy, Subbu did not deserve anything because he was neither well educated nor had any exceptional talent. His only virtue was being a Brahmin, due to which he got opportunities readily. He was always cheerful. Even a flop film could not take away his cheerfulness. The narrator takes a dig at him by saying that he always needed people to work for him, but he was ever loyal to the chief. Subbu could offer countless solutions to the problem of the producers of a film. The narrator comments that filmmaking was quite simple with a man like Subbu Arun. Subbu, the poet, although he was capable of writing on intricate topics, he wrote poetry for the masses. His success in films overshadowed his literary genius. He composed story poems in folk, refrain, and diction. He recreated the mood and manner of the Devadasis of the early 20th century and even wrote a novel, Tilana Mohanambi. Mohanambi. Subbu, the actor and the psychopath. The narrator mocks Subbu by saying that he was an amazing actor. Although he played minor roles, he performed them better than the lead actors. He always said nice things about everything and everyone. His house was crowded with acquaintances and relatives who stayed there permanently. He was really close and intimate with the boss and so had many enemies. Belonged in the story department of Gemini Studios. Although Subbu always stayed with the boss, he was taken to belong to the story department. The story department comprised of a lawyer and a group of writers and poet besides Subbu. The lawyer was a legal advisor, but everybody refers to him as a legal advisor. He had unintentionally brought about a sad end to the career of a budding talented actress by recording her outburst against the producer. The legal advisor looked different from the other members of his department as he wore pant and tie while they wore khadi dhotis and white khadi shirts. He was close to the boss and was allowed to produce a film which flopped. The lawyer lost his job when the boss closed the story department. Gemini Studios, the favorite haunt of intelligence. Gemini Studios was a favorite among the poets of the time. It had an excellent mess which supplied good coffee almost round the clock. Those were the days when the Congress government had implemented prohibition and people enjoyed their leisure time over a cup of coffee. Almost everybody seemed to have has ample leisure time at the studio. The political ideology at the studio. Most of the people at the studio wore khadi and greatly appreciated Gandhiji. All of them were opposed to communism and had many misconceptions about it. They thought communists to be violent with no filial or conjugal feelings. Studio host Frank Banchman's MRA. MRA means Moral Rearmament Army. The Gemini Studio was a host Frank Banchman's Moral Rearmament Army or the MRA, which visited Madras in 1952. It comprised of 200 peoples and was criticized as an international circus. The MRA presented two plays, Jotham Valley and the Factor. The Gemini family, comprising of 600 members, saw the plays repeatedly, even though the message of the play was full. The Tamil and Madras drama community were really impressed by the sunrise and sunset scenes of Jotham Valley were reproduced in almost all Tamil plays in a similar fashion as that play. It was later that the narrator realized that the MRA was that whatever be the case, the presence of the MRA was a welcome change in the monotony of the studios. Another visitors at Gemini Studios. Soon another visitor was soon going to visit the Gemini Studios. The staff did not have the faintest idea about it. He was rumored to be a poet or editor. The visitor was not connected with any of the famous British publications. The guest arrived and the boss read out a very long speech that did not have much to say about the visitors. When the guest's turn came to address the audience, his accent could not be understood by anybody. His visit remained an unexplained mystery, a short story contest organized by the encounter. The narrator then referred to another event, a short story contest to be organized by a British periodically by the name The Encounter. The narrator wanted to have an idea about the periodical credentials before participating in the contest and spending on the postage. There was not much about the periodical in the library, and even the few copies found looked untouched. He checked at the British Council Library and found out that the editor's name was Stephen Spender. He recalled that this was the same editor who was a guest at the Gemini Studios. The writer felt that he discovered a long-lost brother and immediately sent his entry excited. The narrators buy a low-priced book, The Gods That Failed. Some years after leaving his job at Gemini Studios, the narrator bought a low-priced copy of a book, The God That Failed, released on the 50th anniversary of the Russian Revolution. It was a compilation of 6 essays by 6 different authors on their journey into communism and their disappointed return. Stephen Spender was one of the contributors. The narrator instantly recalled Stephen Spender visited to the Gemini Studios, thus the mystery was finally solved.
About the actor, Christopher Sylvester was a student of history at Peterhouse, Cambridge. He was a reporter for Private Eye for 10 years and has written features for Vanity Fair magazine. Chapter sketch. The interview is an excerpt from the author's introduction to the Pickering Books of Interviews, an anthology from 1859 to the present day. The author expresses his views on the interview as a communication genre. The chapter has 2 parts. The first part deals with the views of eminent people about the condemnatory aspects of the interview. The later part reproduces and And actually, an actual interview of Umberto Eco, who is being interviewed by Mukund Padmanabhan from the part background of the interview. Having a history.
Basically.
Having a history of over 130 years, different people have varied opinions about the uses, modes, and advantages of interviews. Till now, thousands of celebrities have Till now, thousands of celebrities have been interviewed. Every educated person is familiar with it. Some people claim that it is a source of truth, while others feel that in practice it is an art. Opinions about interviews. Many celebrities despise the interview because it is an encroachment on their privacy.
Opinions about interviews. Many celebrities despise the interview because it is an encroachment on their privacy. They believe themselves to be the victims of unwarranted intrusion. It depreciates their personality in a manner depicted in some primitive cultures, where people believe that if someone takes a photographic portrait of somebody, then one is stealing the person's soul. V.S. Paul is one of the opinion that interviews injure people as they lose a part of themselves. Lewis Carroll, the creator of Alice in Wonderland, was said to have just a horror of the interviewer and never consented to an interview. He was horrified at being treated as a celebrity. His refusals for the interviews helped him keep his fans, acquaintances, and interviewers at bay. Later, he would narrate such experiences of his refusal with greater satisfaction and amusement. Moving on, Rudyard Kipling, H.G. Wells, and Saul Bellows' view on interviews. Rudyard Kipling vehemently condemned interviews. His wife Caroline writes in her diary that on 14th October 1892, their day was ruined by two reporters since their husband refused giving interviews because he considered them immoral, a crime, and an assault which is worthy of punishment. According to him, interviews were something cowardly. He neither held the interviewee in esteem nor the interviewer. Although Kipling criticized the interview, he had himself interviewed Mark Twain only a few years before the tirade against his interviews. H.G. Wells, an eminent science fiction writer, frequently gave interviews, but in an interview in 1894, referred to the interviewing ordeal. 40 years after this comment, he interviewed Joseph Stalin, a great Russian revolutionary. Saul Bellow felt the interviewers created so much tension and pressure that he felt suffocated. He describes the interviews as a thumbprints on his. Summing up the genre of interviews, despite its disadvantages, interviews an excellent medium of communication. Dennis Bryan gives an elevated position of the interviewer because of his power and influence over the interviewee. He terms the interview as an expressive medium. Reading to part 2, the second part of the chapter is an extract from an interview of Umberto Eco, who is being interviewed by Mukund Padmanabhan from The Hindu. Umberto Eco is a renowned scholar who is known for his idea on semiotics, literary interpretation, and medieval aesthetics. He is also an author who has an array of works ranging from literary fiction, text, essays, children's books, and newspaper articles. He rose to prominence with his work The Name of the Rose, which sold a staggering 10 million copies. Eco's views on philosophical interests and interstics. The interviewer Mukund Padmanabhan quotes David Lodge, an English novelist who had expressed astonishment at Umberto Eco's varied and sizable works. He expresses his surprise by saying that how could one man do all things that Umberto Eco did? Umberto Eco says that this is a delusive impression about him because he has always been doing the same thing by writing same philosophical and ethical ideas in different genres. Eco discloses his secret of producing such voluminous works. He realizes the empty space, that is the shortest gap between two different works. That's the reason why he has produced so many works, and he called the empty spaces as interstices. Eco's sentiment and playful style. The interviewer questions about his playful and personalized style of writing, which is quite different from the dull and the drab style adopted for writing academic works. He asks him if this comes naturally or whether he has to make a conscious effort to develop this style. At this, Umberto Eco replies that he has learned this style of writing when he was 22 years of age. At this time, he had first presented his doctoral dissertation in Italy. Professor was because he had included his trials and errors, had told the story of his research. His professor published his dissertation as a book, which was his way of complimenting his student. Eco understood that he had to adopt the narrative style in his works also. This led him to become a novelist at the ripe age of 50. At this stage, Umberto Eco remembers his friend Roland Barthes, an essayist who died frustrated because he could not fulfill his wish of being a creative writer. Umberto says that he never felt this frustration as even his essays had a narrative aspect to them. He says that he started writing novels by accident on a day and when he had nothing to do, they catered to his taste for narration. So that's an important part because novels it just got him through with this narration, and that's why it gave him phenomenal success through the novel named The Name of Rose. Moving down, Mukund Padmanabhan then states that The Name of the Rose made him famous as a novelist, although he is an academician with over 40 works in non-fiction. Most people work as a novelist, but this doesn't please him. He belongs to the academic community and participates in academic conferences. He writes novels only on Sundays. He accepts the fact that by writing fiction, he can reach more people. He says, I cannot expect to have 1 million readers with stuff on semiotics. Mukund, the interviewer, asks him if he is surprised by the staggering success of the novel The Name of the Rose, as The Name of the Rose. As The Name of the Rose is a serial novel that spins a detective yarn at one level and also ventures into metaphysics, theology, and medieval history. Thus, it is considered a difficult and a serious read. Umberto Eco says that staggering sales figures. The only people who look at this in journalists and publishers. They believe that people like trash and don't like difficult experiences. The people who bought this book are readers who do not want any easy experiences. He himself says that after working with the whole day, he refreshes himself by watching light entertainment programs such as Miami Vice or Emergency Room after dinner. Similarly, everybody likes light reading only to a certain extent. As such, serious reading does not give the draw people. The medieval period to which this book belongs could have all success. For Umberto Eco, the success of the book is a mystery. His American publisher had told her that the book was not expected to sell more than 3,000 copies when no one has seen a cathedral or studied Latin. If he had written it in 10 years later or 10 years earlier, it might have not been such a remarkable success story. So that's it about this particular chapter. Moving on. Going places.
அப்படின்னுமா
படிக்கிறீங்க
சரி நீ படி ஆன்லைன் இருக்கு
இப்போ கேட்குறது கேட்க மாட்டேன் ஒரு நிமிஷம் இது படி நான் வந்து படிச்சுட்டு
இப்பெல்லாம் தனியாக இருக்கு
நேற்று தான் படித்தேன் தண்ணி குடிச்சிட்டேன்
நம்ம அதை தான் சொல்லுங்கள் அந்த கிளாஸ்
தண்ணி
பாஸ் பண்ணிட்டேன் Okay, going places. A.R. Wharton. Chapters. Going places. Wharton explores the theme of urban fantasy and hero worship through the character of Sophie, a young teenage girl from a lower middle class family. Sophie is a daydreamer Her family and friends try to stop her daydreaming and help her from time to time. But she keeps on building castles in the air. When reality hits her, all her dreams appear to be shattered. The author has thus emphasized the aspirations and ideals of the modern young generations, and at the same highlight the pain of unfulfilled promises and unrealized dreams. About the authors, Sophie, a highly ambitious lower middle class adolescent girl living in a world of dreams and fantasy. Johnsy, she is Sophie's close friend and very practical about their status. But she's a gossip monster, and according to Sophie, a talented footballer who is the local hero and idolized by Sophie. Geoff, he is the hardworking elder brother of Sophie, who is a sports enthusiast and confident of his sister's desire and fantasies. Sophie's father, he is hardworking, practical, and wants to provide better facilities for his family. How about the author, A.R. Barton, a modern writer who lived in Georgia and writes in English. He has authored many stories like Going Places, which are mainly concerned with the problems of stages, adolescents like fantasizing and hero worship. Summary of the chapter: Daydreamer Sophie. Sophie is returning home from school accompanied by her friend Jansi. She tells Jansi that she dreams of owning a boutique after leaving school. Jansi, who is not a dreamer like her, tries to reason that such a thing requires a lot of money. Sophie replies that she would become a manager till then and save the money needed for the bouquet. Johnsy again contradicts her childish dreams by saying that she will not be made a manager straight off. Sophie keeps on dreaming about her boutique and says that it will be the best in the city. Johnsy knows that they both designed to work in the biscuit factory. She is quite practical and is aware of the realities of life. She wishes that Sophie too come down to reality, but this does not bother Sophie, who quite suddenly says that she would then become an actress. As actresses do not work full time, she would be able to manage her boutique as well as. In spite of Johnson's advice that they should not in, indulge in fantasy, Sophie keeps on babbling about being an actress or a fashion designer. Sophie's family also rubbishes her dreams. While Sophie is entering her house talking about money, Johnsy records by saying that if she ever manages to get some money, she should buy a decent house first. Her little brother Derek mocks her by saying that she thinks money growing on trees. Sophie's mother sighs at her daughter's fantasies. Sophie notices her mother bending over the sink. Her back has become somewhat bored with the burden of household work. Their small house is steamy from the stove, and dirty dishes are piled up in the corner. Sophie feels a tightening in her throat and goes to look for the brother Geoff. Sophie is jealous of Geoff's silence. Geoff is tinkering with a part of his motorcycle in the next room. He has been out of school for almost 3 years and now works as an apprentice mechanic. Sophie ponders over the areas of his life about which he has never spoken. Geoff is almost grown up now and he has developed a habit of speaking less. Sophie is jealous of his silence. Geoff's world remains a fascination of for her simply because it is known to her. She is long to know him. She wishes to be admitted more closely into her brother's affection, hoping that someday he might take her along with him to the unknown places in his mind that have so far remained out of her reach. Her father forbids it, and she also thinks that Geoff considers her too young. However, she feels that she would be comfortable there in the outside world. She dreams of riding behind Geoff on his motorcycle. Sophie tells Geoff about her meeting with Danny Casey. Sophie tells her brother Sophie tells Geoff about her meeting with Danny Casey. Sophie tells her brother Geoff about her meeting with Danny Casey, an Irish sports star in the arcade. Geoff knows that she is a hopeless dreamer and so she says that she met him while window shopping at the Royce. Sophie describes her meeting with Casey. Geoff promised not to tell anybody about the meeting. Her meeting with Casey was a chance encounter. She wanted his autograph for her younger brother Derek, but neither of them had a paper or pen. Cassie and Sophie, Cassie and Sophie started talking about the clothes at the Royce. They decided to meet next week, and Cassie promised to give her an autograph then. Geoff doesn't seem to believe her. She gives him details about his physical appearance to make her meeting sound realistic. Geoff shares the story with their father. Geoff is finally convinced to into believing her story and he shares it with her father. Her father's disbelief annoys her and she adds even more embellishments to her story to make it sound credible. The father and Geoff start discussing about the abilities of Danny Casey. Her father rubbishes Sophie's claim and warns her that one day she will land herself in trouble because of her wild story. Sophie then informs Geoff of her date with Danny Casey, but Geoff refuses to believe her. The family goes to watch the match. Sophie, Derek, and their father sit down near the goal while Geoff, as usual, sit up higher with his friends. United won the match because of Casey. Sophie meets Jancy and gets surprised by the fact that Jancy knows about the meeting with Casey. She gets angry with Geoff for blurting out her secret. Sophie is worried that if her father gets to know about this, then she will be in trouble. She is relieved to know that Jancy has no idea. Sophie explained to Sophie that she can be trusted. Shattered. Sophie is now at the canal Casey. She has always imagined such a perfect date. While waiting, she imagines Cassie coming along the river. She imagines her excitement and whether when after some time she does not see Cassie. She realizes the reality. The thought of his not coming starts making her sad. Sophie gets miserable at the thought of explaining all this to her family. Geoff would be disappointed and other about her. She does not want to live with the burden of truth. Still, she doesn't want to give up her dream. Sophie lives her dream. Sophie once dreams of meeting Cassie at Royce. She asks for an autograph, but they don't have a pen. She imagines his physical appearance. She fails to differentiate her dream from reality. She keeps waiting in the arcade for a long time, remembering Cassie's soft, melodious voice and the shimmer of his eyes. As Cassie was quite young, Sophie idolized him as her hero. She saw him in a match, and in fact, this was the only time she had seen him. ஒன் டே லிஃப்டா கமான் ஸ்பிரிட் எவனோ தேடாம பார்க்குறேன் ஆண்ட இருக்கா
யாரும் தெரியலடா. ஸோ okay, let's get continued with our writing skills part now. So we are signing up with the prose part. So we'll meet you next in our next session.